The most heartbreaking tragedy of human existence is not death itself. It is a sovereign being, born with the essence of a king, forcing itself to bow, dulling its fangs to chew withered grass among a flock of sheep. Look deep into the mirror. How many times have you castrated your own pride, suffocated your grandest desires, just to buy a fragile illusion of safety amidst a mediocre crowd? You wear the silhouette of a giant, yet lock yourself within the cage of your own insecurity and fear. Hidden within the ancient Mahaparinirvana Sutra lies an earth-shattering parable. If you dare to listen and truly comprehend this roar, it will eternally shatter the fragile ego holding you captive. From this exact moment on, your life will never be the same. Day after day, claws destined to tear through life and death timidly hide within the mud. Eyes born to pierce the vast wilderness, cast downward, endlessly counting the footprints of sheep. It assimilated itself with weakness. It practiced bleating, practiced shivering in the cold wind, practiced panicking when darkness fell. It preferred the amnesia of its own identity, just to be accepted by the herd. Just like us, through countless cycles of rebirth, we have lost touch with our pristine, luminous nature. We allow prejudices and the grueling survival of daily life to mold us into obedient, suffering sheep. We cry, we lament, we curse our fate, entirely unaware that, in the deepest abyss of our consciousness, an awakened Buddha is fast asleep. Until one day, the earth trembled. The true king of the ancient forest emerged, carrying the majestic aura of 1,000,000 lifetimes. The flock scattered in absolute terror, and tragically, the young lion fled with them, running from its own kind, fleeing from its very own essence. But the heavy paw of the Master descended. Not a strike to claim a life, but the fierce grasp of immense compassion. He seized the cub by the scruff, dragging it to the edge of a crystal-clear stream. Look down. The absolute command of truth echoed through the silent woods. Pinned against the cold bank, the young cub recoiled. Its entire being was a mass of unhinged panic. In a state of agonizing despair from that broad, muscular chest, escaped a pathetic, shattered bleat. It squeezed its eyes shut. It would rather die in familiar darkness than open its eyes to confront an alien greatness. Strangely, we are no different. We cling to our frailties, fiercely embracing our petty sufferings, simply because they are familiar. We fear the blinding light of truth, far more than the abyss of ignorance. But the king of the forest remained silent, immovable as a sacred mountain. And then, a single teardrop of absolute dread plunged into the stream. Hesitantly, it slowly opened its eyes. For the first time in its life, it beheld its original face. The water held no lies. Reflected, there was no obedient, grazing snout, no dull, glassy eyes of prey. It was a figure of sovereign might, a proud brow, identical to the supreme being standing beside it. A horrifying yet glorious realization struck. The outcast, the freak of the flock, was a wandering king. The reflection laid bare the truth, but the cowardly habit of a sheep was rooted far too deep. Intellectual understanding alone is never enough to tear down the prison of samsara. It requires a shockwave that rattles the very cosmos. In that exact moment, the Lion King tilted his head to the heavens, and a colossal roar tore through the ancient woods, the lion's roar shaking the very fabric of the void. This was no mere physical sound. It was the ultimate transmission of the Master's awakened mind. The sonic wave of absolute authority pierced the fog of ignorance, shattered all illusions, and poured directly into the dormant cells of the young lion. Look into its eyes, the pupils dilate. The inferiority complex is pulverized. The phantom of a pathetic sheep has been executed, and a sovereign has just awakened. As the roar faded, the great forest sank into a breathtaking sacred silence. The young lion stood upon the jagged cliff, gazing down in profound stillness at the white flock huddling and shivering in the misty valley below. With the eyes of an awakened one, it looked upon that crowd not with arrogance, but with a vast, boundless compassion, mourning the blind slumber of the mortal realm. From the corner of its mouth, a half-chewed blade of green grass slowly slipped, falling to the stone. The grass of habit, the grass of endless rebirth. I can no longer swallow the nourishment of ignorance, not for another fraction of a second. Sometimes, the price of awakening is the courage to walk away from the noisy herd. For if you let go a little, you will have a little peace. Let go completely, and the Pure Land reveals its radiant glory. But alas, to truly be reborn, one must bleed. The karmic habit, the reactive conditioning of countless lifetimes is not so easily erased. The throat, conditioned to bend and plead, was now convulsing, violently thrashing as it tried to summon the sound of a ruler. It opened its jaw, trying to mirror its king. But what escaped was only a raspy, distorted, suffocated wheeze. It was agonizing. The weight of ancestral karma was crushing its chest. The Lion King remained silent, granting it the sacred empty space to endure this agonizing rebirth alone. It closed its eyes, drew a breath so deep, pulling strength from the very roots of its existence, gathering its entire life force to tear down the wall of fear. And then, the catharsis. A ferocious surge of vital energy violently ripped through its throat. It roared, a primal roar, ruthless to ignorance, majestic to the heavens and earth. The roar of a king reclaiming his lost throne. The sheer intensity of the sound crashed down upon the stream. The watery mirror, which once reflected illusions, now shuddered violently, shattering into 100,000 fragmented ripples. The illusion vanished. Ignorance was pulverized. In that blinding flash of clarity, its entire consciousness was illuminated by an absolute truth. I am a lion, not a sheep. The chains snapped. From that very microsecond, it was truly, undeniably free. The earth-shattering sound eventually dissolved into the void, returning a sacred tranquility to the ancient forest. This was not the silence of death, but the profound stillness of supreme wisdom, the state of fearlessness, devoid of even the slightest trace of dread. Watch how it takes its first step. Gone is the hurried, cowering trot. Every muscle flows with grace. Every footfall upon the earth is heavy, unhurried, and unshakable. It walks through the mist without letting the mist dampen its spirit. The sacred forest remains full of peril. The sheep remain in a state of panic. But its consciousness is completely anchored in the present moment. The awakened one walks freely through the mortal realm, wherever these footsteps of pure peace fall. Nirvana manifests right there and then. Dear spiritual friends, the Buddha taught that every sentient being carries within them a priceless Mani jewel, a radiant, primordial Buddha nature. Yet we spend our lives wandering as miserable beggars, starving upon our own hidden treasure. Awakening is not a miracle falling from the heavens. It is the raw moment you recognize the illusion, dare to smash the mirror of your insecurity, and spit out the withered grass of cowardice. Do not live your entire life and close your eyes to the tragic, bleating sounds of a sheep. Turn your gaze inward and awaken, the roaring sovereign of your own soul. We often bind ourselves to feelings of inadequacy, believing we were born merely to endure fate and trauma. Yet, the watery mirror reveals a staggering truth. Deep within us exists a sovereign entity, utterly untainted by the world. Stop judging yourself through the lens of ignorance. Turn inward and reignite the majestic pride of your spirit. Humanity tragically clings to familiar, toxic habits simply out of fear of the pain of metamorphosis. The young lion had to drop the grass of illusion and endure the agonizing tearing of its throat to unleash its true roar. Starting today, have the courage to sever your stagnant routines. Embrace the temporary chaos and forever shatter the chains of karmic conditioning. The desperate thirst for crowd validation often forces us into the tragedy of living a patched-up life, losing our true selves. Upon awakening, the king of the forest calmly parts the mist, leaving the herd behind with a gaze of absolute compassion, yet resolute detachment. You need not hate the noisy environments or those who misunderstand you. Simply let go in silence and walk firmly upon the path of fearlessness. The journey of inner alchemy is never easy, but it is the only path to authentic liberation. The time has come to shatter the mirror of illusions. If you decide today to shed the skin of a sheep and awaken your enlightenment, leave the words, "I am a lion," below as a sacred declaration to the universe. Ultimate greatness lies not in reaching for the heavens, but in having the courage to tear down the narrow cage you built for yourself.